the top left corner of this screen, we can see Greenland. And Greenland, as we all know, isn't green. It's mostly covered in ice. But over the last few decades, that ice has been melting, those glaciers have been melting. And the resulting weight loss has meant that the land of Greenland is rising, and the sea around Greenland is actually falling. So it's one of the few countries where the sea level is falling around Greenland. The melting glacier has meant Greenland has now got a boom in disaster tourism, where cruises are heading up to Greenland to marvel at this melting glacier. They've got a 3-week longer growing season since the 90s. And the extra land they've got from the melting glacier has revealed some zinc mines, which has contributed to their economy, and a couple of years ago they voted to become independent. So Greenland is a real outlier country in terms of responding to climate change, and it's actually, Frank mentioned that some of the positive benefits of climate change are really in the Northern Hemisphere, and Greenland is an extreme example of that. So I'll be looking at some of the technology opportunities that Ireland might get. Now, they're nothing on the scale of Greenland, but it's just the perspective of Greenland is something I'll try and bring to this presentation. So I've got 4 parts to my presentation. I'll start off talking about the fellowship, just a couple of slides, then the climate technology opportunity space. So in general terms, what that might be, work that's been done in this area in Ireland. Then the bulk of the presentation will be my own analysis of technology opportunities based on technology development being done in Ireland. And then I'll try and bring it all together in the context of climate innovation and some conclusions, and also tee up the Matthew and Richard will be coming after me. So the fellowship, so I'm the fellow, Brian and Paul, we've met already, or you'll be meeting later, and I'm based in the ERI in UCC. So the fellowship aims, they're just to look at climate technology as an area. Biotechnology, ICT and energy are seen as core strengths in Ireland. What can climate technology do? And with it, keeping an eye on the solutions, climate technology solutions. So they're the lofty aims. With the work packages, what I've been doing from day to day is putting together a database of climate technology research in Ireland, doing a multi-criteria assessment of that to look at overall strengths and potential opportunities, and then conducting outreach as well. So today is an outreach day. I've met a lot of people from various research groups here already, but today I really want to engage more. So climate technology, it is what it says on the tin. Technologies of relevance to climate change mitigation and adaptation. It's a newer term. Excuse me. So in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the climate negotiations, climate technologies is really the default term. This is where it's most widely used. So when countries are talking at a high level about meeting climate targets, what technologies are required, technology transfer between different country types, it's all about climate technology. Now, this climate technology is a term, it overlaps with clean tech, which is a more familiar term, green technology, low carbon technology. John even alluded that climate technology is all technology. So, but it brings in the mitigation technologies, but also includes adaptation and particularly technologies for understanding the dynamics and impacts of climate change. So climate challenges in Ireland, this slide just gives an overview. So these are a snapshot of a couple of challenges in Ireland in terms of climate change. We've got a big agriculture sector. The mitigation potential is difficult, and there's a lot of emissions there. We've got a small island grid with a lot of intermittent wind, and we have an island nation looking at sea level rise. But if you flip these challenges, we grow grass in Ireland better than anywhere else. There's a longer growing season now. We've proven ability to integrate a large amount of wind into a small synchronous power grid, so we're leaders in that now. And onshore wind expertise and active marine research, these are both proven. So can these become fully fledged opportunities? So I've got question marks here at the end of these. Some of these are in a greater stage of development than others. And so my project is has this kind of trajectory. So looking at challenges and where are the opportunities in terms of technology development. So the opportunity space. So there's quite a lot of different people have spoken about the opportunity from climate change. There's economists who, often mainstream economists, they'll say, well, just the costs now are so much lower than the cost later on, so it makes sense. People might be building political support. There's kind of a lot of belief out there that the doom narrative of the apocalypse of climate change, that's not really leading to action. So the necessity for highlighting the opportunity space. And this, Richard, we stole your quote from the phone conversation we had with you. And actually, well, I saw it was 5 trillion actually, I think, from John McKiernan's slide. So I spoke about climate technology. It includes a lot of the green technology already. So there has been quite a few reports and analysis of the opportunity in this area done in Ireland already. And I know some of the authors of some of these reports will be in the room today here. Now, if you haven't read all of these reports, this is a summary. So these are based on the size of the word, the most frequently cited terms in these reports. These are going back 15 years. And this was very interesting for me, like bioenergy there jumps out as the biggest one, but we couldn't really say that our bioenergy sector in Ireland is booming. Leak control and monitoring of supply networks is definitely an opportunity there. So these are some of the opportunity areas. So I'll be looking at some of these in my talk. Now, just a couple of slides on, say, the reports in Ireland that have talked about the potential. How is Ireland actually doing in this space? So there's a couple of international reports that I think are quite interesting and relevant. So the Clean Tech Innovation Index, they looked at 38 countries for their clean tech performance and their potential. And Ireland came in the top 10, and even the authors of the report were a bit surprised at this. They said Ireland we didn't think they were doing that well. Now they measured it in terms of kind of innovation drivers or innovation policy, and then evidence for innovation, clean tech innovation. So Ireland was in 2012 doing especially well at general innovation, very pro-innovation, but clean tech innovation was lagging a bit. Then emerging clean tech innovation, not so good at the time, but there was a lot of commercialized clean tech innovation, that partially due to the presence of a lot of multinational companies in Ireland. 2 years later, the same indices, broadly speaking, more countries this time. So Ireland, again, in the top 10, but in the views of the authors, doing even better. The general innovation and clean tech innovation was seen as above average. And there was a lot of emerging clean tech innovation discovered as well. And the Greenway were actually cited in this report as kind of evidence of kind of pro-clean tech work going on. So this was quite an impressive turnaround in 2 years, I thought. And then the last index I want to mention, this Global Green Economy Index. So they measure 2 parameters. They look at the performance of a country in terms of its green economy and the perception. So what do people in that country think is happening, or what's the status of the green economy? And this result was very interesting because Ireland was doing a lot better than we thought we were doing. And there were a number of countries that were doing better than they thought we were. There were also a number of countries like Germany that they think they're doing a lot better than they actually are. So we're, again, kind of showing a lot of potential here, and in the views of the authors, so there was a need for more communication about the green merits and associated investment opportunities. So that tees me up nicely for my own work in this area. So I was putting together a database of climate technology research that's current and recent technology research in Ireland, looking at universities, colleges, research institutes, getting data from data sets or from reports and from talking to people as well. This is an ongoing process, so I hope there's some data I can glean from people here today. So this was a long list of climate technology categories I put together at one stage. I'm just going to look at the 6 today, because otherwise we'll be here all day. So my methodology was a multi-criteria assessment. So for mitigation technologies and adaptation technologies, I came up with these criteria, these headings, which I was going to assess the research. And these criteria I chose over probably about a year that I kind of had a long list, or I was refining them over time. So broadly looking at economic parameters, environmental parameters, and then the kind of value chain. The last one there is I suppose the economic potential, the commercialization, the size of the market, the supply chain. So trying to get a holistic evaluation on the technology research that's being done. So just an overview before I kind of dive into the results. So it's quantitative. I've tried to make it data driven, but there's obviously personal judgment in here in terms of my own and people who I've spoken to. In terms of the scope as well, there's always a tension in trying to cover a lot of ground, but wanting to have enough depth in the work. So I'm going to cover a lot of ground today. My wife still doesn't understand what I do, so I hope I don't lose you guys as well. So I look at 6 technology areas, just to show my multi-criteria assessment of them, talk about the opportunities and challenges, and a brief case study as well for each of the technology areas to make it a bit more real. And then I'll talk about climate innovation at the end. So that'll be kind of technology readiness, the innovation system, and some more mechanism market pull. So these are the technology areas I'll talk about. So I've avoided some of the really well analysed areas, like wind energy. I think has been well analysed in Ireland already. So I'll talk. There's some overlap between these areas as well, and some synergies as well, which hopefully will become clear as I talk about them. So agriculture and land use. So the technology areas here, biofuel combustion and feedstocks, the use of anaerobic digestion, energy management in agriculture, and the fertilizer use. And then the more adaptation side, so land management, sequestration, and earth observation technologies. And there's a range of research going on. Chagas in particular have done a lot of work. They've done a lot of data in this area, which I was able to make good use of. So this is how I present my results. It's a spider diagram, so the broader the area on the diagram, the better the result. So for a number of mitigation technologies in the agriculture sector here, and we're talking about, this could be genetic analysis of the herd, could be old-fashioned energy management of a dairy plant, use of fertilizers. So the kind of scoring was there were a lot of technologies that had a lot of emissions reduction potential and had a positive business case. So they were actually cost effective. So the cost curve that John presented, in terms of they were on the left hand side of the screen. So there was some, that was good to see. Then the land use mitigation technologies. So here we have talking about carbon sequestration of peatlands, measuring greenhouse gas flux in grasslands, and looking at forestry as well. So the greenhouse gas savings here, particularly from peatlands, were significant. The risk as well is low enough, because it's kind of a simple enough application of sensors to measure it, and the co-benefits as well in terms of the land use are quite high. So agriculture and bioenergy, then there was a lot of research on different feedstocks that could be used, particularly waste that could be exploited on a farm. Now the TRLs of these were kind of low, that they were there was a lot of work on pilot scale work on different feedstocks, but there wasn't really much big scale work going on in this area. So there are emissions reductions and energy savings potential here. The CO2 cost of them is often very positive as well, but the TRLs, the technologies weren't being used really at a high TRL level. Then lastly, so land use adaptation. So EO here is Earth observation. So using satellite data and combining it with on-the-ground sensors for analyzing, could be land use categories, land use change over time, the seasonality, the grassland, a database of grassland, and then farm management as well in terms of distributing a herd around a field depending on grass growth and kind of aligning optimum grass growth with herd moving around. So there was some really interesting and work going on here, and so this is a kind of a typical shape for the adaptation technologies, that the information value of these technologies is that they're really empowering the agriculture or farmers in terms of how they manage their land and in terms of optimum sequestration. The co-benefits as well are very good, and the no regrets in terms of should we do this policy in the absence of climate change. These were all very strong. So to sum up that technology area, so there were a lot of cost-effective mitigation options, multiple bioenergy feedstocks, but they're, I suppose, not fully being exploited. Greenhouse gas emissions reduction in multiple different kinds, fertilizer use, peatlands rewetting. Resilience to weather variation. So the fodder crisis of a few years ago in terms of managing grasslands, the Earth observation tools are very powerful in how farmers can manage their land with the information that they're getting. Now, greenhouse gas accounting, so new business models for land use sequestration. So this was a comment from an IPCC author. In the event that there's a carbon price, or a proper carbon price, shall we say, then the land use that can sequester carbon, that has a different value. And what business model could you build around that is a very interesting question. And this combined with the Earth observation that is contributing to the greenhouse gas accounting, this starts to look like an interesting area. Now the challenges are implementation, the bioenergy business model, and sustainability. There are challenges to be surmounted there. It's complicated as well, the agriculture, because you're looking at stuff over a season or over a couple of years in terms of measuring the full life cycle impacts, and then translating Earth observation into user-friendly data. That's a real challenge. But again, like the last challenge there, so Earth observation and cloud cover. This was a challenge for Ireland because when you're using satellites, but there's so much cloud, it's hard to do. But there have been new techniques developed to surmount these challenges. And so the case study is what I want to use to illustrate this point, is that a land cover mapping with microwave satellites has been developed by some colleagues in UCC and with Chagask. So this has been used to measure CO2 emission sources and sinks from different land use categories. So the categories here are croplands, land converted to cropland, grasslands, then land converted to grassland. So for these different land use categories, a map was built up of, this is County Sligo, 200,000 land parcels. And in 1992 and in 2008, this land was assessed for what land use type it was. And by comparing the two, the authors were able to analyze the sequestration potential. And for grasslands, it was negative, as in it was holding in carbon. So this technology is able to conduct greenhouse gas accounting of the sequestration potential. So moving on, so atmospheric remote sensing. So this is kind of sensor development and regional climate modeling to to measure the impact of this motley crew here of emissions and black carbon and air pollution. And so a lot of work done in NUI Galway and some in UCC and NUI Maynooth. So this is, as I said, looking at the impact of emissions, aerosols, different sensors for tracking their movement. So the information value of a lot of these technologies they're very high, and their importance as well in terms of the understanding the dynamics of climate change, particularly when you look at emissions and aerosols. And aerosols would have a negative impact. So the more aerosols that are in the system, that's having a cooling effect that is limiting climate change. So understanding that is what a lot of these technologies can do. So the opportunities and like our Ireland's location in terms of the data streams that can be collected for atmospheric remote sensing. We can track Ireland, we can look at Europe, we can even look at the North Atlantic, as depending on the way the winds are. And the quantification of transboundary air pollution and even ash cloud movement. So the technologies that were built up to analyze atmospheric dynamics have been used to track the ash cloud. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. And they're also contributing to greenhouse gas measurement, reporting and verification, which I'll show in the case study. So there are technical challenges to this work, but developing greenhouse gas, so MRV, measurement, reporting and verification, these are very useful technology in terms of future greenhouse gas monitoring of either individual point sources or diffuse sources over a city. So the case study I have here is a Climate Kick collaboration with data from Macehead in Galway. So the CO2, a weekly average count for what the CO2 level is. So this is just a kind of a dissemination project in kind of sharing information, and then there's a threat level there. But this kind of portal could be done for all the greenhouse gas GHGs, could be done for air pollution, for black carbon, for ozone. And the more this kind of information is made public, the greater awareness people have of the issue and of the dynamics of it, and of the potential for actual decision making. So then area number 3, water and wastewater. So kind of two categories here. So sensor developments for kind of smart water monitoring, and then kind of wastewater treatment as well. There's a lot of energy efficiency potential there. And some of the institutes. So for adaptation, so there's technologies here combining Earth observation with tracking groundwater use, water quality monitoring, different sensors as well for analyzing water quality and water use. So this is the kind of a map of the results. So the TRL, some of the water technologies here are quite advanced. Again, the no regrets. So in terms of a technology that has an impact that will be the case without climate change, because a lot of the water management technologies they're useful in an extreme weather event. So when rain comes down and the impact of this on the water system, this can be really understood with some of these smart technologies. So then the wastewater treatment, the energy efficiency was kind of one that I kept coming across here. Now the data gathering stage I was at was kind of hadn't fully nailed down the energy efficiency savings, but these were cited in all the research reports I read, that there were great energy efficiency savings, but there was some uncertainty there about exactly what they were. So in terms of the opportunities here. So Ireland has a kind of low water stressed status, so kind of a smart water system in terms of sensors and wireless networks. This is really helpful in terms of managing that resource. Then the cost model, as we know too well in Ireland, how to make that work. So the case study. This was a paper done by Fionn Rogan in Mestec and DCU. So they set up sensors, a number of sensors, and in Dublin Bay, and then they aligned them with a number of daily water, daily rain level sensors as well, and they were able to track in a very fine detail when a water event happened, as in it rained, that you could track the environmental performance of the water and the kind of the flood levels around the city. So so in terms of the responsiveness to a flood event, this was bringing a lot of information to the table. So smart buildings. So you can't have a smart city without smart buildings. So I was looking at the energy efficiency savings from these. So building energy management systems and incorporating various sensors and wireless technologies. I'll just drive on. There was a lot of, there was a great variation of projects in this area, either in HVAC, so it could be an industry, it could be building, retrofitting existing buildings with sensors to energy optimize them. It could be data center energy optimization, solar cells, so harvesting of light in a room to generate a sensor. So there was a lot of great technologies here. Now the opportunity, the number of buildings, particularly existing, 20% reduction in energy is the frequently cited term. If this is possible, that's a huge opportunity. And industry usage as well. Data centers is a very interesting area. Now the challenges, there's a lot of demonstration projects. Getting beyond that. Users are important. I was surprised to learn that the building I'm in UCC was actually a smart building. This is according to reports, but we've deactivated all the sensors in the building because they were so annoying, because they were opening windows at odd times. So kind of refining that, that's a challenge really for smart buildings. But industry engagement seems to be a lot better in this area. Very briefly, so this was a project I came across in terms of looking at the profile of individual devices to track so in terms of a smart energy readout, you can track attribute the energy usage to a particular device, and then you have a display panel, because we know people react better to more information in terms of the success of smart metering trials. So this initially I came across this as a research project, and then they're actually a private company. So I'm going to quickly I'll try and wrap it up now. So marine energy. So there was a lot of interesting work in this area, and the marine has been cited as it was a high opportunity area, which it undoubtedly is. Both the wave energy device scale, but also the materials, the support technology, and the sensors and the Wi-Fi networks. So I'd like to highlight those as well. That so we've got a kind of a shape like this where the risk is quite high for a lot of the marine work. The energy savings and the emission savings they're definite, but they need to be seen within an energy systems context, because they could be competing with wind to some extent. And these are technologies used for flood forecasting, for a decision support tool for the Irish Coast Guard. So again, using Earth observation tools to inform local actors so that they can respond better to the threats. So just because I'm unfortunately running out of time, this case study of the marine sector, so it's a kind of project looking at the full life cycle of offshore wind and reducing cost using lean industrial engineering principles. So it's coordinated by UCC, but it's got a very broad membership base. So these are all the companies involved, or all the universities involved on kind of in blue, and then the industry partners. So this collaboration between universities and industry was something that I wanted to highlight with this slide, and the importance of that. Lastly then, so transport and air quality. So transport, it's actually an area I'm going to highlight as there could be a lot more research in this area. Like transport wasn't one of the areas that was highlighted in a lot of the reports that I showed up at the start of the presentation. Only 2.5% of overall energy R&D was for the transport sector, this is according to SEI compiled data, whereas 40% of our energy was in that sector. So there's some interesting research in this area, but it's at such a small scale, it's hard for it to succeed. So I'll just jump on. In terms of making the case for transport as an area to be looked at, I think air quality is a kind of a synergy area that could be used to build the case for transport research. So the EPA measure air quality in Ireland, and it's generally good, but World Health Organization standards are likely to come in, and we won't be doing so well when these standards come in. So this Sapphire project at the bottom is a UCC project in source apportionment modeling, so attributing different air pollutants to exact sources, and this is in terms of managing air quality, I think a very useful technology. And so as a co-benefit for transport, I think this could be useful as building the case for more research in this area. Now, Ian is signaling. I'll be sharing these slides, so hopefully you'll get to see. What I just wanted to do, and I'll fly on actually, is the climate innovation. So that this is where I see the importance of this in terms of turning opportunities, getting them up the TRL scale. So this kind of frequency diagram. So these are the technology readiness levels for some of the research projects that I was looking at. So it's a frequency chart of their scale. So most of the work is down at the middle or to the lower end of the TRL level. So as you go up the scale, there's far fewer TRLs. So in terms of getting technologies up to the higher TRLs, we need a strategy for doing that. And when I was in Warwick there a few weeks ago, there was this, we visited the Warwick Manufacturing Group, and they presented this slide, and they're an organization, and they position themselves there in the middle, what's called the Valley of Death, in terms of technology, because there's so many ideas on the lower TRLs, but they rarely make it up to the high TRLs. So an organization that is actually targeting that area, I think, is really important. So my conclusions for TRLs, I think I'd like to see, it'd be great to see TRL monitoring of research in Ireland. I mean, bioenergy has been cited as an opportunity area for so long in Ireland, but we don't know what the level of the research is. Has it improved? Are the TRLs higher? That'd be great to see. And then, some of the industry university partnerships that have been ongoing, and that the partnerships that John mentioned, I think these are really important for raising the TRLs. Then I'm going to mention that in my panel discussion. So sorry for rushing at the end. I was practicing this all week and I thought I had it down. So there's a lot of climate technology opportunities in some of the sectors that I've gone over there, both for mitigation and for adaptation. The value chain opportunities are significant. I haven't gone into them in detail, but they are there. Multiple co-benefits as well, but many good projects still are quite low on the TRL level. So, a strategy to raise the TRL level, I think that's what we could fruitfully talk about today. Climate innovation as well offers useful lessons. So, so Matt is going to talk next about some opportunities at the international level. I asked him to do that, and Richard at some of the kind of getting climate innovation going. Sorry for taking so long. That's it. I'm done.